Hi, good evening. It's our third and final session for the day. Network has been crazy, but hopefully we're able to pull it off. So far, so good. And our last session is by Chris Denver, United States of America. Christine is an amazing woman and a sweetheart. She's the founder of the blog. She has the book. She helps you, your family, and your goals, right? So Kristen is coming in just right after this introduction to show on. So guys, share this broadcast, bring people in, and let's do this. This is our final session. It has been, you can agree that we have the first, the second, and this session is not going to be any different. A parenting goal, then that parenting goal should be followed with a parenting plan so that your goals will be achieved. And that is why we are having this conversation. So I'm bringing Kristen right now, and she'll take over the stage and walk us through creating a parenting plan. By the way, did I tell you that Kristen is the grandmom and her grandson? So I bring just your notepads and your pen, and let's learn together. Christine,
Hello. Hello. I'm so excited that I get to speak at the summit. And I want to thank Dr. Vivian for inviting me. She's done an amazing job. I've spent the last two sessions taking so many notes from great speakers that we've had already. And if you'll forgive me, I'm going to try and incorporate a lot of the wisdom that they have given us in those last two talks into the reasons and the values of creating a parenting plan. So we'll go ahead and get started, but just forgive me. I look down at my notes. I want to make sure that I'm quoting them according to the talks that they gave us today and the wisdom that they've shared with us today. So I'm going to talk to you about my best parenting tool, and that is creating a parenting plan. We're going to talk about how it came about, why it's valuable, and how to start one that you can actually use as you go through this summit to bring value to your parenting. So in the beginning, my husband and I, we do have 4 kids, and the beginning of the parenting roadmap came about on a vacation. We were coming home from a trip, and my oldest was getting ready to become a teenager. We've already talked a lot about that transition that kids make into those teen years. And I was nervous about it. And I started thinking while we were riding in the car, I asked my husband, what were the rules when you were a kid? I had to, bring home all my friends before I went out. I had to be home at a certain hour. I had to have a job. And he said that he didn't have to have a job and he didn't need to bring his friends over or be home at a certain time, but it all just seemed to work out for his parents. And at that moment, we realized we really were not on the same page as far as our parenting. And especially in those teenage years, we both felt that was really going to be a problem. So as we drove, it was a full day's journey. I pulled a notebook out from the back seat of the car. The kids were watching videos, which was a lot of screen time for that day. But we started talking about what, what we thought our plan should be for raising our kids. I started writing down our plans as we, developed them. And by the time we got home, we had a notebook full of ideas and plans. It was a little messy. My husband cleaned it up and put it into a document on the computer, which was very helpful. But we've taken that, and it has been the best parenting tool that we had to raise our 4 kids from that point on. We've shared it with our friends, and they've gotten a lot of value out of it. And so I wrote a book about it, and I'm here to share how to pull this together for you. Before we dive into that, I want to touch on some of the reasons that it's a valuable tool. One is that it puts you on the same page as parents. And I think, we've already heard some talk about how you need to talk together and you need to come up and I believe it was our first parenting conversation. And Sagun was talking about how, parents need to talk about when they have a problem and come together. You need to be on the same page. That makes it a lot easier for you because then your children aren't, hey, mom, can I be out until 10 o'clock at night? And I say, no. And then dad says yes. And then the kids realize that they can just go to one parent or the other to get their way. So it puts you on the same page. It also helps you be prepared. You are prepared for those moments that are coming at you at life, the stages, the questions. If we look to the world around us, we see that business people prepare for presentations. I prepared for this presentation to give to you today. I wanted to be successful in sharing this information with you. So I took the time to write my notes and get ready to present that to you. And coaches, they use this. They plan ahead. They strategize for games and tournaments that are coming up. And so the question is, why don't we do this as parents? Why don't we take the time to look ahead and make notes about those things that are worrisome to us or those things that are difficult for us in our parenting, and just preparing for the stages ahead. So we'll talk more about how to do that shortly here. And the other thing I want to talk about is having a parenting plan allows you to have goals and things that you want to teach your kids, and you do it over time. So we aren't doing it, right as they turn 18 and they're ready to go off to college or to university. We are taking from when they're a young child and teaching little bits at a time over the whole time that we have them as children in our homes. So let's say, for example, we wanted to make sure that they're ready, they understand money and management, how to do their finances. That teaching can start young. You can make notes in your parenting notebook that, even a 3 or a 4-year-old can start recognizing what currency and coins look like and how much they're worth and how to do the math when you buy something. Will you get money back? Did you pay enough? All those lessons, then eventually how to budget and how to save money so that by the time they're leaving, you're not giving them one big lesson, a 2-hour lecture on money management as they walk out the door. So it allows you to then be more purposeful about your parenting, more intentional, and it gives you that confidence. It gives you parenting confidence that you are doing it spur of the moment. So, when something arises, for example, when kids come and ask, where do babies come from? That takes a lot of us off guard. We're not prepared maybe to have a conversation. And if we plan ahead and we're working with our spouses and our whoever's on your parenting team, and there's single parents out there, maybe they have family members that are helping them, whoever's helping you raise the kids, come up with a plan. How do you want to talk to kids about those things? What resources do you have? What books can you refer to when the time comes so that you're ready and you can confidently sit down and have that conversation with your children? So, we talked earlier in the purposeful parenting segment about kids being, orphans in the sense that if the parents aren't paying attention and they aren't purposeful, then it's difficult for a kid to be raised with the values the parents want. Having a parenting plan makes you sit down as a parenting team with your spouse, with ever who you are working with to raise your kids, and write down those important things and how you want to teach them. How do you want kids to learn those values and things that they need to get them to adulthood? So I really liked that. We don't want the world teaching our kids. We don't want them learning from, what's going on in the crazy world we live in today. We want them learning from us, from us as parents. So it's important that we do the work and we take the time to create these plans and to think ahead a little bit. You don't need to think ahead 10 years necessarily, but what are the parenting needs today? What will your parenting needs be in the next year or two? Start thinking about those things and writing those plans down. I also liked the point that was mentioned earlier about the razor and how we handle it with care. That's again mentioned. And if I'm mispronouncing your name, please, I apologize. But it was so wonderful because the razor, handle with care. How do we as parents, use that sharp edge carefully? Those kids look up to us. And I think when you have a plan, you're less likely to exhibit those, kind of moment anger. You still have that. I mean, that we're human, but you have a plan to know how to deal with it. And it helps us just pull that razor a little bit. So we give the kids the training that they need, but maybe not with the sharpness of the razor because we're prepared. So I really loved that wisdom, and I wanted to make sure that I added some of that into my talk. So how do we do a parenting plan? People ask me this all the time. And my number one response is you need to make this easy for you. How do you like to take notes? How do you keep track of your notes, your household files? Do you prefer to have them in a notebook? Do you prefer to keep them in files on the computer? Whatever is going to be usable for you, because you are going to be using this document, referring to it, adding to it, changing it. You want to make sure that both parents are able to access this document that you're creating as well. So, for example, my husband travels a lot for work. So having a notebook, which I prefer, is having pen and paper, didn't really work for him because he wasn't able to access our parenting plan. So we ended up putting it on our computer, and then he had a copy of the file that he could take with him. So what will work for you? Some people also like to take messy notes. My notes are messy. These are some of my notes from today. And other people take very neat notes. They're very organized. Maybe they use a spreadsheet. So think about how you like to take notes and what's going to work for you. This doesn't have to be a beautiful, work of art or a literary masterpiece. It's just simple, usable notes for you to refer to when you need them. So I like to tell people, I'm going to grab another notebook I have here, use tabs. So if you use a notebook, use tabs so that you can organize your notes by age. This way, if you have a younger child, but you come across some really great wisdom for a teenager, you can just go to your teenage years section and just add that note in so that down the road you can say, oh, yeah, I remember that. Or somebody recommended a book that was really good and I forgot about it, but I'm glad I wrote it down. You have those resources when you need them. I like to share, I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well, but I'm going to try and share this. just an example of what a note looks like. Oh, let's see if I get a little better. I have taped notes in here. I taped them in. I have sticky notes. Oftentimes parents, you know, we need phone numbers. This isn't working out as well as I thought it would. You might add information that you need. This happens to be a little sample that I created for high school aged kid. So maybe they have a math tutor and you have the math tutor's phone number written in there. Maybe you have how you want to talk to your kids about driving or dating or checking in, with you on different topics, maybe at school. And this way, each section of your notebook has your most valuable notes in them. Now you can do this on the computer too. You have one big file, and then you have smaller files inside for each of the age groups. And I recommend you can have it starting at infant, and then toddler, and then preschool, you know, school age, preteen, high school or teenage years. And I would add a young adult section too, because as we talked earlier, about how hard it is for those kids. They get ready for the different seasons, and one of those seasons was the teenage years and going into adulthood. And as they do that, we let go a little bit. Okay. And I talk a little bit about that in the book. When a child learns to tie their shoe, you tie their shoe for them. Then you show them how, and you practice, 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 and then they tie their shoes on their own. And it's the process continues on year after year. When they get to their teenage years or young adult years, they begin to move on. They are looking to the world a little bit more, not necessarily to us for making their decisions. And so as a young adult category in your parenting notebook, it's there as a reminder to you as a parent. I like to call us parent consultants. Once we get to that stage, which is the stage I'm at right now, I'm a parent consultant. My kids are in this young adult stage, and they might come to me for advice. They might not. They might not take my advice, but they still do you as a parent as someone to bounce ideas off of and as a rock. And sometimes, especially during this pandemic, with the craziness that it's caused as far as people not being able to work, they come back and they live back at home after they've been out. Do you have agreements that you charge them until they move out, or if they're in school, you don't charge them rent? All those different things that need to be settled so that everybody's on the same page can be just as important in the young adult stage as it is in the teen years or the school-aged years. So I would, going back and just wanting to review a little bit, setting up your parenting plan in a method that's going to be easy for you to use and access. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It's your best notes with your plans in them, and taking notes and talking as parents together, deciding together what your parenting plans will be. It could be anything from a bedtime routine to homework routines to how will they be able to have a phone and what the rules are when they get older. It's so many things, and you can be able to refer back to it. I like to refer to it a little bit as a foundation. It gives you a very strong foundation. Now, we all know life happens and things don't always go as planned. So you have this foundation of plans that you might need to update or you might need to tweak because life changes. And the biggest way, one of the biggest ways is technology and keeping track of your kids and keeping them safe on technology. is something that has happened for a very long time now. I raised my kids during, the start of cell phones, and then by the time the last child came through, there was iPhones with internet capability and all kinds of things that, were really difficult to manage as a parent. And we had to keep changing our plan and updating it, scratching things up and starting again, or changing our mindset and our approach to how we were going to parent those things. So understand that it's a good foundation that still is going to require your attention as parents. Parenting is work. Purposeful parenting requires time, and it requires a little bit of work. And it will require once in a while you to check in on your plan with your spouse or whoever you're parenting with, and say, this isn't working, or this is working really well, or I think I'm starting to be concerned that we need to start thinking about that and what our thoughts and rules are around that. You're gonna have to keep that communication going and keep the plans going as it goes on. You can't just write it once and put it on a shelf and you're done. So it's a working tool to use, as you go through and you parent your kids. Um, what I also really liked today, that Innocent mentioned in his talk, was he talked about uh, his when he was a child and he was neglected, and how that affected him now, and how he has worked to reflect as a parent, and worked to, I think his quote, I have it here: people in pain spread pain, people in healing spread healing as parents. And as parents, we have to take that time to reflect on how we were raised and what our parenting style is, and what a better way to do that than to work with your spouse and create your own parenting plan and to get yourselves on the same page. And I'd like to add, from his talk, he had, so many good, all these notes in front of me. So thank you for bearing with me as I add this. What kind of parent am I? Reflect, pause, ponder. Um, how were you parented? That's the fabric of who you are, and your fabric of who you are together to your kids. And honestly, you're raising your kids in a completely different um, era age than your parents raised you. I know, well, I'm old, and a lot of you are probably much younger than me, but we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers, we didn't have any of that. So my parents kept telling me, oh, don't let them get on technology. Don't let them have a phone. Don't let them be on a computer. Well, I can't do that. That is the way of the world. We're on the computers now, talking and sharing this great, amazing summit for parents with people around the world. So I could just take my kids off of technology. I had to find a way to make it safe for them. And I do rely on my parents for advice, but sometimes the times change, and maybe we have to rely on each other because we're all parenting in the technology right now. And that's what I really like too about what Innocent had to say, is because he shared his experience and was so open and had so much wisdom to share, that I love it. We talk a lot about having a parenting network. Those your friends and your family and maybe your doctor. Parenting network is the presenters and the people in the chat on this very summit. You're gaining knowledge from. And he shared his situation so that we can all learn from it, and we can share our situation so other people can learn from them. And those can often be a lot of notes into your parenting plan. Okay, how there's some value to that. There's some value to, um, rewarding yourself as a parent. He did that when you do well. It's not easy to be a parent, and he had to go through a lot of transition. He went through, um, his transition so that he could be a better parent. And I loved that. It reminded me of the Maya Angelou saying, do the best you can until you know better, and then do better. And as parents, we have to understand we're learning too. We're not perfect. We're learning. It's good for our kids to see that we're learning and we're not perfect. So in those moments that maybe we get angry and we yell and maybe we went overboard and we don't want to do that again, you know, we apologize to the kids, and that's a good time to reflect on, ooh, that might be an area I need a parenting plan. That's a hot button. An example of a hot button for me was one of my daughters, when she was a teenager, loved to wear my clothes, and which is fine. I don't mind sharing my clothes, but I was teaching at the time, and I needed my professional clothes ready to go. And there'd be time in the closet, and my favorite shirt or my scarf or whatever it was missing. And of course, it would be in a little ball in her room rolled up. She wore it, she didn't wash it or take care of it. And I'd say, hey, you can't, if you're going to borrow my clothes, you need to be respectful, clean them, and put them back in my closet. And time and time again, say I'd go in and it was over and over. And I struggled with it because I don't mind sharing clothes. Like, I think that's great. But, she wasn't learning the lesson. So I sat at dinner with our family, and she happened to be at work, but some extended family had been visiting, and they heard the story. Well, she's a great kid. Um, but, they said to me, well, you need to do something more drastic because listen to you, and this could go on for years. And I think they're right. It could go on for years. So I went home that night and I took all her clothes, not all of them, but most of them, and put them in bags and brought them down to our basement. And she came home from work and wondered where her clothes were. And I said, well, that's exactly how I feel when I go to the closet. So I had to learn from my, family, that I was just repeating the same pattern, and it was time for me to do something a little drastic. And it was time for her to learn about in a lesson without me yelling. And she got the message because she hasn't done that since. She still lives at home. But so, I think it's really important that we work together as a parenting network, and we share. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I wasn't a perfect parent. My kids will be the first to tell you that, I'm sure. But if we all work together to be, a better community, then it's great for kids and hopefully the next generation. Um, which also brings me to another reason why you have a parenting plan, because someday your kids are going to grow up and they're going to leave the house, and you will have this great book that you have worked on about how you did your kids to the best ability, and look back with few regrets. I mean, you're going to regret. You'll miss them, or there'll be something, but for the most part, you did your very best, and you have those notes to show, and they want to look at them. They're going to be parents someday, and while times will change and some of it may be obsolete by their parents, they're going to look and say, wow, my parents worked so hard. They put this plan together. They raised me by this, and this is how I want to raise my kids. And that's how change the next generation, is being purposeful and then sharing and handing these things down. Okay. So those are some of the main topics that I wanted to cover. as far as getting your parenting plan set up, the other thing I wanted to kind of cover is some of the things that you might, right now you might, well, what do I put in my parenting plan? And everything. And I would say no to that. I'd say if your kids, let's say bedtime routine, that's often a tough one for parents. The kids won't go to bed, or they want to drink glasses of water, and parents, their kids go to bed. If your kids just, you do your routine, you read them the story, you say your prayers, whatever, and they go to bed, you don't need to write a parenting, notes for that. You've got it down. They've got it down. But the parents that are struggling, they probably need to do a little research, or they may need to ask their parenting network if they have ideas. So find those things that you worry, find those things that you struggle with as a family, find those things that are kind of tough issues that are out ahead of you. Usually toilet training or potty training is one for young kids, and so you plan for that. Or talk about where babies come from. You head for that, so it's ready for you. Those are the kind of stages and things that you want to think ahead about. So this plan is for you. It's not going to be the same as your neighbor's plan or your friend's plan. Everybody, every parent, every family is unique. And there is no one parenting manual out there that is going to solve every parenting problem that you will have. So you have to create your own. And it's a part of being a purposeful. So there's so much wisdom with the speakers ahead in this summit. And so I want to make sure that, I highly encourage that you take the time, get your, notes together. And if you don't have time because we're participating in the summit, just take your notes. And then as you create your parenting plan, you can insert that. Maybe you found some good ideas for a teenager. Maybe you found ideas for, a school age kiddo, and you can add those notes, where they're needed. But so the topics that you might, in contact with, of course, we've talked about technology, about chores. Do the kids help around the house? Do they have responsibilities? And do you have a plan for how that works? And who does what chore? Does everybody get a chance to learn to do all the different chores? That would be something that you would need to talk about and lay out your plan. Things like good character, or religious customs and traditions and family traditions. Some of those things, when we come together as a family and with a spouse, sometimes how one celebrated a holiday is different than how this does. And maybe there's some traditions you can incorporate together. So those are things to kind of work on. We did something with our kids. They were probably about, I can't remember now, but I think it was like around their 10th birthday, between 10 and 12, where they could have a birthday with their friends, but they could invite several kids. We didn't invite most of the time, but they can invite kids. But they were not getting presents, so they were not to get gifts. But the kids that came to the party needed to bring items that were needed for a little homeless shelter. So that was a hard one for the kids, because of course we all love celebrating birthdays. But my husband and I learned a lesson that, first of all, if you have 4 kids, you have a lot of toys and gadgets and things in our house, and too much, and they needed to learn that it was too much. So this special birthday, all 4 of them went through it, and I'll tell you, they didn't want to do it in the beginning. They were good sports about it, and after it was over, they they were so excited about giving. And they, this day, when people, talk about birthdays, comes up, oh, there was this year we had this birthday party and we weren't allowed to get presents, but we gave, because we had a car full of stuff to bring to the homeless shelter. So, those are the kind of things that you want to, plan ahead of time and make sure that all of your kids have an opportunity to, whatever your situation or values are around stuff. It gives you an opportunity to set those goals and achieve them because you write them down and plan them out. Another thing I thought I'd throw out there is a topic called sharenting. And I never heard about this, but I read it maybe about a year ago in the Wall Street Journal. And sharenting is when we share on our social media accounts, about our kids. And most of that, if your account is private, that's a fun way to share about your family, with family members and things like that. And it's public, you probably have to be a little more careful about that. But a lot of kids are now starting to come of age to have their own social media accounts and connect to their parents. Their parents posted some embarrassing photos of them as they were little. Maybe they were throwing a fit, or any number of things that out there. And so that's a parenting plan issue that makes us take a look at ourselves and how am I, I never thought about that. I never even thought about what I was putting on social media eventually will be seen by my kids and it might embarrass them. Never really put too much thought into that, but that's the issue. So as parents, that parenting plan is good for us to reflect on how we participate in social media, what are rules we follow, because I don't like teenagers putting embarrassing photos of me out on the internet. So, those are, think about how do you want to handle that? How do you want to deal with that? What's the example you're setting as a parent for social media accounts and things of that nature? That's another topic that you might think about. I mean, there's millions of topics, honestly, and you don't need to write your parenting plan all in one day or weekend. It's work in progress. It was for my husband. We wrote our most pressing issues first, and then as things would come up or time would pass, we'd sit down and adjust as needed. So I feel like should be a big task. It should feel like it is a useful tool for you. End of story. What's useful for you? What helps ease your worries? What helps you gain more confidence as a parent? That's what this is for. And also, what's joy to you as a parent? It like caught off guard all the time, and you always feel like you're yelling at your kids or they're not listening, or is it that you've taken the time to write a plan and you follow through with consistency? And they learn those lessons and you're able to enjoy your kids and have a little fun with them too. So I think we talked earlier about kids and disciplining, and that there's different ways to discipline kids. And I was a teacher for 10 years of graders, so 7-year-olds, and I had the most fun, and I use this with my kids too, um, using body language and facial expressions to get their attention. And it's so funny because they're used to you lecturing them and telling them what to do and all these things. And the second that you just stop in your tracks and you do one of these, but you don't say anything, and they're wondering, what is happening? So, it gives them a message that they see that body language and they know what that means. They know I've done something wrong or something's not right and I need to fix it. And usually they know what it is they need to fix. And chuckle a little bit because you're not saying anything, but you're portraying that, that image of, you fix that, and they do. Or you can use the reverse when you're really excited and proud of them. And just come in my class. I used to have about 25 to 28 kids in the classroom, and did something really good. I'd let them all walk into the classroom, and then I'd follow in and be real dramatic and just, excited and just, I wish a word. And they would giggle and they would laugh and they thought it was so much fun, that they knew that themselves. But sometimes, less more when it comes to talking too with kids. So there's all different kinds of strategies that are kind of fun to try out, and how you research those and use them, share them with your parenting, network, and let them know, hey, this worked the other day. Try it out on your kids and see if it works. It makes it a lot of fun. I'm trying to track my time here. I think I might be getting close to time, but uh, I'm happy to get a little closer. I have this on my phone, and so it's hard for me to read some of these questions, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about parenting plan or anything else. So I'll keep an eye on the chat here and see if any pop up. But just remember, as we're waiting, I can't emphasize enough that parenting is not perfection. It's about the power in your plan. And I write that a lot on my social media. If you want to follow my parenting, please do. And give your input. Let me know if a parenting plan, if you started one and how it's going. If you have any thoughts to share, then that helps everybody. That helps all the parents out there on social media. If you're sharing how it works for you, share it with Dr. Vivian, and let her know if you tried it or it works or not. And I see her pop in.
Hi, Christine. Thank you so much. So there's a question on the screen.
It's been a pleasure. It is an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, there's a question on the screen. I don't know if you can see that. Is it?
Let's see. Your parent
happens when
I'd say
the father and the
have different ideas about parenting. Well, that's very important. So I think that if you can sit down and negotiate, it might be that you have to come together. You can't get your way with the mom and you can't get your way with the dad. You have to find ways that you can give and take a little bit. And if that is a big struggle and you can't come together, then it might be time to ask for some, get some help and some support. Like a therapist or your pastor or your friend.
Yeah, thank you.
And sure.
Yes, thank you so much, Christine. This has been an side the work in progress.
Thank you.
It doesn't have to be perfect. You just take to suit your needs per time. And you also mentioned that your parenting plan doesn't have to have everything in it. It has to do with the things that you are struggling with. So you want to focus on the things that you are struggling, and then you create a plan for how you intend to solve, to sit down with your to copy him Instagram and search for Noteworthy Parenting at Noteworthy Parenting on Instagram. Amazing insights and her works in parenting. Thank you so much, Christine, from the first session, second session, and in the third session. I hope that this has been an interesting conversation, that you have gained knowledge, that you have gained wisdom, and that you are making a decision to become more conscious and more present and a better parent. Children ourselves, we're raising better people and we're changing the world. And that is the soul world. And to create a better world, we have to create better people. That is the sole aim of what we are here. I mean, you got this knowledge absolutely free. Please do not be stingy with them. Share your notes. You can the hashtag Parent Summit Africa 2020. Share it on all your social media platforms, so that if you raise your child well and I raise my child well, then we're all safe. But child well and I don't raise my child well, then your child is not circle. Share it to your people and get everybody to join this conversation. Tomorrow we start at the same time, end of the day today, and we start at about the same time. And the sessions for tomorrow are also very. Thank you for joining. If you're watching us from YouTube, don't forget to click the subscribe button and notification so that your Facebook will notify you when we go live. And it's important that you join to meet them in your email. We're trying to get all the grounds covered because we don't want you to miss anything. Christine, for your time and for your wisdom, we do not take it for granted. Thank you for sharing from your wealth of knowledge. We really
thank you.
Really be ahead. You are we are on different time zones. So have a wonderful day, and for all us here, everyone watching from Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana.
Wow.
So for the updates. If you're not following us on Instagram, you should also head over to Instagram Africa, so that you have the updates that you need. If you miss it on one platform, you won't miss it on the other. So thank you. I love you all. Be kind to yourself, be kind to the kids, be kind and be more loving. The world needs more kindness.